On the trail. Ah, Palestine. So it's been a while. Yeah, I do. You were talking about we were talking about war in general. Was jumping around Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Japan, and all kinds of stuff. So it was all over the place. So how you been doing? You have a question. Do you believe when Israel says Hamas uses human shields, I am great? Well, it's let's see if I can turn down the volume here. There we go. Maybe a little more even. Well, it's information, and when you have information, there might be a lie or it might be correct. So the question is, who is lying? And anybody who has worked at a workplace, for example, that has more than 10 people in the workplace, knows that you will have liars in your organization. So I believe you have manipulative and lying people on both sides. And there's as I said when we were conversing last time, you have people with reasons, you don't have justification. So that's the problem with the whole situation. So it's the only thing we didn't cover last time is that I care just as little about Palestine as I do for Israel. I don't care for any of those places, because their conflict is not my conflict. Well, believing it, it has been a method used by other people in the Middle East. So I wouldn't say it's what they do is that they keep even their family members around them, because they're trying to if you attack them, then you will be a horrible person. So it's they're abusing the rules of war. For example, America, they have a system for casualty rates. So let's say you have a target, and that target is in public. Then they will look at how many innocent people will be affected if we target that person with a missile, for example, or a drone. So then they will be like, depending on how many people are there, they will make a decision on if it's justified, kind of thing. So it's kind of inhuman, but that's war, you know. So it's let's see what you say. Hamas is a piece of shit, murderer, rapists, and thieves, says Kargot. Well, you have the attack on the music festival, for example. So they attacked a music festival and kidnapped people and killed people. That's how the whole thing started, I think. One of the things that happened at the start. You say, according to Israel's own police investigation, the festival only became a target when it was observed from the air or stumbled upon during the incursion. There was no maps or intelligence among captured fighters showing the festival as a planned target. And the event had been extended to that Saturday only a few days earlier. In their own words, Hamas likely did not know in advance about the event and decided to target it on the spot. So just because the invading force didn't know about the festival, it became okay to kill them and kidnap them. What's your logic around that? You say, also, why do you have a problem with them taking captives? If you occupy someone's land, then you can capture them. Okay, that's a Islamic logic, and it's you can have captives, and you usually hold them for ransom. Well, Islam uses kidnapping as a legal term, because Islam allows slavery. So you're saying that the music festival was on Hamas grounds or Palestine? Did they have a music festival on your side of the borders? But it isn't. That isn't true, because you're not. You have. You still understand borders, right? Yeah, well, we don't recognize Palestine, so that's a. If you wanna be like a rogue nation, and have your own brainwashed logic on what's yours, well, that's your opinion. Well, that's your fight, man. I don't have to believe anything you say. Israel was there before Palestine was. How far back do you want to go? Islam didn't even exist. It was created. At what year was Muhammad born? And at what year did he create his religious path? You say the Israel that was there was a kingdom, and the people that lived there were brown. They were the ancestors of the Palestinians. These Jews that came from Europe exploit it by naming their new nation Israel. It's like a bunch of Swedes went to America to steal their land and renamed it after some Native American tribe. Well, the thing is, I don't know the details of how today's Israel was founded. I only know that it was somehow supported after the end of the Second World War. And I don't know the deals made with the local populace at the time, or how it was founded. But the thing is that when you have invading forces, like, for example, if you look at Sweden, for example, we have had a giant influx of immigration, refugees, all kinds of stuff. So what we do is that we try to absorb them into society, like you're one of us, kind of thing. So the thing is that when you have a mentality where you are owning the land, then you are misunderstanding the ownership part, because you have politics, and then you have public space. And when you have public space, it means that the city owns houses or the land, and you as a citizen is part owner when you have a public thing. So if you have a city or a region or a nation, you're part of something, and that organization is tax based and can have ownership as an organization. And then you have the private sphere, when you as a private person own things. And the problem when I'm reading what you're saying, you talk as Palestinians as owning the land of Israel. And when I look at the Palestinians, they argue that the problem is that Israel is buying up property. So when the Palestinians argue that they are getting taken over, they are complaining that they are Palestinians who own things, and then they sell that to the Israelites, and then you have a problem with that. So if you have a Palestinian that sells something to you, they are doing private business. So your problem is with other Palestinians. And if you attack Israel because they are doing business, it's kind of stupid. It's almost like you have a group of Palestinians that are very low education and don't understand what private sector is and what's a nation part. Let's see here. You say, no, it was supported before World War II began. A bunch of Jews from Europe came to Palestine and said, this is ours now. The same way how England stole India and Africa. Muhammad did not exist, says Kargot. Israel is not buying up anything. They just take it by force. They didn't sell their house to some Jew. No, that's false. Read what I said. Wrong. Read what I said. The information I have is that they are buying up. You can. The Swedish state, the Swedish regions, and the Swedish cities own things because they have used taxed money to have an organization built, because it needs to exist somewhere. If you don't have the land or the housing in your own ownership, even as a state, you need to rent. So if you're a nation that is renting everything from the private sector, it can happen, but it's starting to buckle. You don't really have much of a nation then, because the tax money just goes straight back into the private sector. That is a problem that we actually do have in Sweden as well. But it happens because the nation state doesn't recruit or educate people, so you have the means to own the situation. So that gives power to the private sector. And when I have looked up Israel online, because I don't live in Israel, I don't live in Palestine, but the information I have found is that they are buying up land. They are doing business. So if you're a Palestinian that is poor and don't understand money, and don't understand that they are buying up land and that they are doing business with other Palestinians, because if a Palestinian sells their house to a Jew, the Jews are not taking over, they are just buying property. And that's the seller's fault. So you should be angry at the person selling their house to the Jew, not to, like... Do you understand the problem? If you have a person that is so broke that they can't afford their house anymore and they sell it, it's not the buyer's fault. Okay, let's see what you say. They literally came with boats. That said, Jewish state to Palestine, and with help of the British colonized it. They got the land by sending Jews from Europe to take their land with war. They did not buy anything. Right now, for example, they literally don't recognize Palestine, and Israel says all houses that Palestinians own are property of Israel. They sell those houses to random Jews online. The Palestinians don't get the money. They don't get a choice to sell or keep their house. Well, are they renting or are they owning those houses? Because if you live in a building and someone else owns that building, they can sell it. And if they sell it, it doesn't mean you can live there anymore. It depends a little bit on the laws of the land and such things. One problem also when it comes to feeling that you're getting taken over is that sometimes people use the laws of the land, and then people are displeased with what is happening, even though what's happening is not technically against the law of the land. So what the British and the Jews did when they founded that must have been in correlation with the laws you had in place. For example, Sweden has had a big portion of the population that is against the immigration that has come to Sweden, for example, and the freedoms we give to people who are non-natives or even citizens. And to some degree we have changed our laws to be beneficial to people that are not Swedes. So you basically have more protection being a non-Swede than you have being Swedish in Sweden, which is kind of fucked in the head. But that's the way the politicians went at that time. And the support for being against that politically has grown. So if you look, Swedish people hasn't like attacked the immigrants in the regard of war as you did against Israel, because we are doing dialogue and politics and diplomacy. Do you understand? So if you want to understand what was the problem with the creation of the US state, because you can be giving me like Palestinian propaganda, and I have no way to know if there's any legit grounds to the information. So it's kind of your information would make a stupid person go, "Oh, I totally believe you. Israel is the bad people," which can be true. Last time we spoke, I said to you, in war you have people with reasons. You rarely have justification. You only have justice, barely, if you have a functional nation. Anyways, I need to use the restroom. I'll be right back. I will read the rest you have said when I come back. All right. Let's see here. Kargot says, several hadith, narrations of the Prophet Muhammad's life, record Aisha, one of Muhammad's wives, describing cleaning semen or prostatic fluid from his clothes. These accounts are found in canonical Islamic texts, specifically Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim. So he was a sloppy comer. Let's see what you say. Those houses are theirs, but Jews came and said the land you live on is now ours. Palestinians don't move to Israel and rent some house. Israel came to them and said your land is now ours, instead of your own state. Jews didn't immigrate to Palestine. It would be like if immigrants came to Sweden with weapons and said Sweden doesn't exist anymore, now all of it is ours, and you don't do anything anymore. Well, the problem with your information that Jews just came and took the land is that there might be a chance here that the ones who came bought the land that they didn't own. So it depends on the deal made in that part of the world, because if you look at the ownership of land, ownership of housing and stuff like this, it can be different in Sweden than to other nations. So, for example, if you own land in Sweden, you only own land a couple of meters down into the ground. I don't remember how far, but if you go below that, you don't own it. It's because if you... and I don't know if this is true either, because I haven't read the law myself. But ownership is different, and it depends on, say for example there was a Palestinian, right? Or a family of Palestine, a rich family, say. So there was a rich Palestinian family who owned the area you're talking about, and they sold the land. So they didn't sell your house, but they sold the land, and by law they weren't allowed to stay anymore in the houses, because they were bought from under them by your laws. So I'm not saying this is what happened, I'm saying it's a possibility. For example, if normal Palestinian people don't know the function of their own laws, if they don't know their own laws, then an extremist group like Hamas, they can exploit stupidity, make a false reality. So it's clear if you look at the reasons. I don't think the Jews in Israel are hiding the fact that they believe it's their land because of them coming from there from thousands of years ago, sort of thing. But this today's conflict is based on them coming there, and what both sides say about how the founding began. So it's almost like the immigration to Sweden today. It's not like I can turn back time and build walls so the immigration never happened to begin with. I have to make plans of how to go forward from here. So, say for example, what can the rest of the world looks at the current conflict is Palestine's own fault, because the Hamas leaders organized and planned an attack on Israel. Now they have to take the consequences for that. You can't attack people and then play victim when you get your ass beat. Like if I go downtown and someone attacks me and I beat the living shit out of them because I defend myself, I'm like, what the fuck are you attacking me for? And then the attacker's like, "Meh, you came downtown," you know. Is that the reason you attacked me? Okay, wait a minute. I have to... You say there was no deal. It was done with Britain. Britain owned around half of the world. They were colonizers. Jews didn't politely come to Palestine and say, "Hey, can I buy this land?" No, they came and said, "You are an inferior race. We own your land now because the British say so." Okay. I have to Google just to see if I can get some information here that is neutral. How did the Jews found today's Israel? How the modern state of Israel was created in 1948. This is from historyskills.com, by the way. The formation of modern Israel was born out of millennia of Jewish history, emerging as proposed sanctuary for a people who had faced persecution in many corners of the world. The late 19th and early 20th centuries saw the rise of Zionism, a movement that sought to establish a national homeland for the Jewish people in Palestine. But how did global events, particularly World War II and the Holocaust, shape the path to Israel's establishment? And in its early years, how did Israel confront and overcome the myriad challenges it faced? The roots of modern Israel can be tracked back to ancient times when the Israelites established the United Kingdom of Kingswall around 1020 BCE. However, internal strife and external pressures led to the division of this kingdom into two, Israel in the north and Judah in the south. By 722 BCE, the Assyrians had conquered the northern kingdom, disappearing its inhabitants. They all died, sounds like. The southern kingdom of Judah managed to persist until 586 BCE, when the Babylonians under the king Nebuchadnezzar II captured Jerusalem and destroyed the first temple, initiating the Babylonian exile. The return from this exile in 538 BCE, sanctioned by the Persian king Cyrus the Great, marked the beginning of the Second Temple period. Over the subsequent centuries, the region witnessed a series of conquerors, from the Persians to the Greeks, under Alexander the Great in 332 BCE, followed by Seleucid Empire. The Maccabean revolt in 167 BCE led to the establishment of the Hasmonean dynasty, a brief period of Jewish autonomy. By 63 BCE, however, the Romans had annexed Judea, and it became a province of the Roman Empire. The Roman period was marked by tension, culminating the Jewish-Roman Wars. The destruction of the Second Temple in 770 CE by the Roman legions under Titus was a devastating blow. A subsequent revolt, the Bar Kokhba rebellion in 132 to 136 CE, further diminished Jewish autonomy in the region. Following these events, the Jewish diaspora spread across the Mediterranean and beyond, though a Jewish presence remained in Palestine throughout the subsequent centuries. The rise of Islam in the 7th century CE brought new rulers to the region, with the Umayyad and later the Abbasid Caliphate established control. Over the next millennium, control of the region shifted among various empires, including the Crusaders, the Mamluks, and the Ottomans, who took over in 1517 and ruled until the end of World War I. Zionism at its core, it's a national movement that emerged in the late 19th century, with the global re-establishment of a Jewish homeland in the historical region of Palestine. The term Zionism is derived from Zion, a biblical term that originally referred to a specific mountain in Jerusalem, but later came to symbolize the city itself and, by extension, the entire Promised Land. The seeds of Zionism were sown in the context of European nationalism and the challenges faced by Jewish communities in Europe. Pogroms or violent riots aimed at Jewish communities, particularly in Russia and Eastern Europe, combined with the cultural and intellectual currents of the time, led many Jews to seek the solution to the Jewish question, the matter of how Jews could achieve equality and security in a predominant non-Jewish world. Theodor Herzl, an Austro-Hungarian journalist, is often credited as the father of modern political Zionism. Disturbed by the anti-Semitism he witnessed, including the infamous Dreyfus affair in France, Herzl concluded that assimilation was not the answer. In his groundbreaking work, Der Judenstaat, the Jewish State, published in 1896, Herzl articulated the idea that Jews should establish their own state. He believed that only through self-determination in their ancestral homeland could Jews live freely and without persecution. Herzl's vision quickly gained traction, leading the first Zionist Congress in Basel, Switzerland, in 1897. This Congress established the World Zionist Organization, WZO, which aimed to promote Jewish migration to Palestine and garner international support for a Jewish state. So it began in 1897. So they started trying to move there, but there was a small Jewish population who have always been there. The ones who left just tried to came back. That's what happened. The Basel program, adopted at this Congress, officially defends Zionism's goal as the creation of a home for the Jewish people in Palestine, secured under public law. So they are trying to do public law. So this must mean that they have done a political movement in Palestine. Between 1882 and 1903, approximately 25 to 30,000 Jews immigrated to Palestine. During the first Aliyah, mainly from Eastern Europe, establishing agricultural settlements such as Rishon LeZion. The British Mandate of Palestine, spanning from 1920 to 1948, was a pivotal period that significantly influenced the course of Middle Eastern history. Following the defeat of the Ottoman Empire in the World War I, the League of Nations granted Britain the mandate to administer the territory of Palestine. Okay, so Britain was the League of Nations granted Britain the mandate to administer Palestine. And that was because the Ottoman Empire disappeared. So it was to fill a power vacuum. This mandate was officially confirmed in July 1922 and came into effect in September 1923. The foundation of British involvement in Palestine was laid with the Balfour Declaration of 1917. This declaration, Arthur James Balfour, the British Foreign Secretary, expressed the British government's support for the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. However, the declaration also stipulated that the rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine should not be prejudiced. So they were thinking about the Palestinian people that lived there, or at least tried to. The declaration stipulated that the rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine should not be prejudiced. From the outset, the British faced challenging in balancing the aspirations of the Jewish and Arab communities. Jewish immigration to Palestine increased during 1920s and 30s, driven by Zionist aspirations and the dire situation for Jews in Europe, particularly with the rise of Nazism. During the 30s, over 250,000 Jews immigrated to Palestine, many fleeing Nazi persecution in Europe. This immigration combined with land purchases by Jews. Immigration combined with land purchases by Jews organization led by significant demographic and economic changes. So they bought up land. The immigration was people with money that moved there, or organizations. The Arab community in Palestine, alarmed by the increased Jewish presence and the potential loss of Arab majority status, voiced strong opposition to the Balfour Declaration and British policies that seemed to favor Jewish immigration. That is a concern. That is a political concern. This discontent led to several outbreaks of violence, including the Arab riots of 1920 and 21. The 1929 Western Wall disturbances and the more extensive Arab revolts in 1936 to 39. In response to the challenges of governing a divided populace and the violence outbreaks, Britain issued several policy statements. The 1930 Passfield White Paper sought to limit Jewish immigration and land purchases, while the 1937 Peel Commission recommended a partition of Palestine into separate Jewish and Arab states. The latter was rejected by both Arab and Jewish leaderships. 1939 White Paper issued in the wake of the Arab Revolt, further limiting Jewish immigration and land purchases, aiming for an independent Palestine governed jointly by Arabs and Jews within 10 years. Okay, so we have a little bit of a backstory there. So I was right on a couple of things. There have been money buying land. Okay. Let's see here. You're reading around half the world. Blah, blah, blah. The land Kargot says the land Israel is in was given by the British Empire and all the countries around Israel. A bunch of bitches nations that only knows how to lose wars. Tukure says, all of this is irrelevant. Israelis are not Israelites. Palestinians are the descendants of Israelites. This is history, says Kargot. You are reading Palestinian history. Palestinians were first Jewish, then became Christian, and then became Muslim. It's not ones who left, they are European. That's why they are white and constantly get skin cancer in the Middle East. They are genetically, culturally, and linguistically European. They were white Europeans, usually Polish or Ukrainian. They spoke Yiddish, Polish, Ukrainian, and so on. And they had European ways of thinking. There is nothing Palestinian about them. Saying that European Jews are Jews who left is just as stupid as saying European Christians are Christians that left. Because both Christianity and Judaism started in Palestine. Just because you have AQ certain religion doesn't mean you're from the place where that religion started. Bro, can you just read my messages so I don't have to debunk everything from my mind? Yeah, I want to have a conversation, not listen to him, just misinformation. Dude, you have no source. You're just telling me what you want me to believe. I took out a webpage that is called historyskills.com and went through basic information they give. That is how you speak. When you have a source of information, that's when you can critique it. You have not given me sources. You have given me what you believe in. So you're not debunking shit. You're just wanting to force me to believe what you say. And I don't like people like that. What is your source? I don't want a video, I want a source. A video can be made by anyone. I make videos on YouTube. It needs to have a source, a historical source. That is true. But if you can debunk it, we have a website called www.historyskills.com that is giving basic information about the events in Palestine, and I've been reading those, and you are debunking it by saying you don't believe in you don't believe what I read. Why should I believe what you are typing? So what of the information I read was incorrect? If you can start there, I might start like wanting this conversation to continue. I read a bunch of stuff which was false in what I read. Did the Jews... You said the Jews did exist. And that they are Muslims now. So that part was not false. And then you made a racist term about us being white and full of cancer. So what about the other stuff I read? About the Jewish organization immigrating with money to Palestine and buying up land to make food. Was that a lie too? Cargo says, this is wrong. Christianity came out of Judaism and Islam originated as a Christian Arian heresy. Tuke says, you understand that this website is also just written by some guy, right? It's a source. I am saying if I have a source and I'm reading it to you, you have to debunk it, and it can be easy if you have a source. What parts of what I read was incorrect? And by the way, you're a racist. Okay, should I give you a video about this? No, I don't want a video. I want a source. A website with a text can be made by anyone. Yep. A video can too. Okay, so why can't I give you a video, but do I need to give a website? Because text is easier than a video. If I'm gonna watch the video, then I need to pause all the time, and I will probably have information that I should believe in. So when you read, it's easier for me to critique it. So the first step is reading the information, and the second step is making a critical view of it. So is there anything that sounds like it's going in an incorrect order to what you have been learned prior? So manipulation is when you change the information to your benefit in certain degrees. And the information I read was not hiding any facts about the Jews trying to go back to Palestine and taking it. But the difference is that when this conversation began, you tried to convince me that they just came there and took it by force. And it turns out, by the information that I read, that the Jews has been moving to Palestine for a very long time in an organized fashion that has increased by because they come with money. So they have bought up land. So they have been doing business. There have been people in Palestine selling land to them. So I was totally correct on that part. So there might be people who have not bought land, but maybe rent and so forth from those land or even from other Palestinians. So you're the one trying to make me believe falsehoods, because this has been happening over time. So there have been Jews in Israel, and you consider yourselves Muslims now, and the Jews coming back are not real Jews because they are white, cancerous people. You say, first of all, they start with ancient Palestinian history and act as if it has anything to do with European Jews. Yeah, but who are you to who are you to make them into European Jews? How they, do you know the problem with that? I'm not saying white people are full of cancer. I said that European Jews get cancer more than Palestinians because they are white. Why is a website a source but not a video? A video can be a source. But the thing is that you still need to have a source. So say for example, if you write an exam for school, for example, and you're trying to prove you're trying to prove that you have learned things. So you're giving out information on what you have studied, and then you will leave the source. And when you have a video, you usually don't have someone to contact if you want to know more in depth of the info. So that can be the problem with a video. So the teacher that checks the information you have given to the teacher will see where you search for your information and what sources you choose. So sources can be anything. It can be, but it's to check if you have studied at all, basically. And when it comes to believing one side or another, what I'm trying to say is that everybody lies and everybody manipulates when they're trying to win. And the problem when the Palestinians and the British, because the British, they were trying to help and govern when the Ottoman Empire fell apart. They tried to fill a power vacuum that you couldn't fill yourself, because the nation, Ottoman Empire, that was governing fell apart, didn't exist anymore. You know? That's why the British was there. And the British, according to the text here, tried to make it somewhat fair for the ones living there still. So they tried to make fairness, create fairness. And you made a political move. This is outrageous, and these are immigrants, you know? So your political standpoints make sense. Your reason for starting wars. So is the rest of the world gonna act like you do? We are gonna have a lot more wars. If you understand what I'm saying. Why do you say go back to Palestine when they are Europeans that have never been in Palestine? Well, it's they came from that area because of wars. Historical wars pushed Jews out of Palestine. You had one Jewish state that became the north and the south. And the Syrians moved in and murdered everyone in the north. And the south remained for some time, and a lot of Jews fled for their lives into Europe because of other peoples coming in and murdering them. And they didn't find a peaceful home in Europe because they didn't feel at home. So the Zionism came to be born out of the fact that they felt like they needed, instead of being scattered in different European nations, they tried to come together and create a state. And when the Ottoman Empire fell, they saw an opening and made dealings with the British that were governing when the Ottoman Empire fell apart. So it was an international move to keep the region stable. because your political system fell apart and disappeared. Do you understand? If you're still here. They didn't come from the area. They came from Europe. Those Jews that were pushed out of Palestine were Palestinian Jews. And they were very few. Most of them stayed. They went everywhere, including Europe, and were genetically assimilated with the rest of Europe. The Jews now in Europe are just white people that choose the Jewish religion. That's why they were white. If they were the descendants of Jews that fled Palestine, they would be brown. Your argument right now had only racial opinions. It had nothing to do with laws. You skipped the fact that you're the nation governing Israel and, Palestine. Ottoman Empire fell apart. What do you have to say about that? The British took governing control because you didn't have anything. Yeah, duh, it's like saying I am from Africa genetically, but I am white because I believe in tribal religion. This is bullshit. No, what I'm saying is that you're making it a race question. Why are you making it about race? Why do people have to be so if they're not brown, they're not a Jew? Is that what you're saying? Kargot says, the people in Palestine now come out of Israel. The countries around Israel declare war in the Israel nation. The people that left for Palestine did so because the nations around told them to leave Israel or die with them. Tuke says, because it is about race. That's how you know where someone's ancestors are from. No, race is about if you create a race by having sex with your family members. Because half of your genetics comes from you're half of your father and you're half of your mother. So the only way to keep a race pure is by having sex within the family. So that's the problem with your whole argument there. But maybe that is your practice. I don't know. Tuke says, Jews declared war by coming on a boat that says Jewish state. If a bunch of Somalis come to Sweden with weapons and boats and say the Somali state and the Swedish fight back, then the Somalis started the war. The difference is that your state fell apart. You had the Ottoman Empire and then you had nothing. That's why it happened. Sweden is still Sweden. It hasn't fallen apart yet. And Somali is Somali, and I don't know how much of a nation that is. So that's the problem. When you use Sweden and Somali, you have two actual national states. And when you're talking about Palestine, they weren't a state. They were a part of the Ottoman Empire that fell apart. Tukö says, that's now not how it works. If Sweden's government fall apart, then that doesn't mean foreigners can come and just take it. When the Ottomans were gone, they still locally governed themselves. No, they didn't. They had the British. That's why the British was there. You don't even understand how it works. You've been manipulated. If the Swedish government falls apart, there's nothing that gives rights to anyone. All the rights that people in Sweden has will go away. You will not have any rights. It will be anarchy. That's how another state can be formed on another piece of land. Don't you understand? You understand that the Ottoman Empire was just a coalition with a bunch of small states, right? They didn't make up all these names like Yemen, Syria, and Palestine. They didn't make that up when the Ottomans left. They always had that national identity in those separate areas and local government. Yeah, well, the British was there because of, what was it, the League of Nations? It's like the UN. All the nations of the world is going to the UN and having talks, international talks. Do you understand? It was an international agreement that made the British go there. The nations of the world at that point in time decided that the Britons was to stabilize Palestine, one part of the Ottoman Empire. And that's how that whole state thing. You're making war over your political power dispersing into nothing. Kargot says, after the Ottoman Empire collapsed, it Ekkom, no man's land, yeah. Tukö says, yeah, the British were in half of the world. They are the history's biggest colonizers. International agreements by a bunch of Europeans. I don't know how many nations was in the Nation League. It was before the UN. So the League of Nations, I think it was. Kargot says, after the Ottoman Empire collapsed, that I have read. Tukö says, the Ottoman Empire was not like NATO right now, than a country. I don't think that's true, dude. What was the organization of Ottoman Empire? It's an empire, dude. That means you have a authoritarian leader. You're totally off. You don't even know your own fucking history. Okay, so when I do a search, let's see here. This is Copilot. Oh. Yeah, it's Wikipedia. World History Encyclopedia. That should be one of the most accurate ones. So now I'm at www.worldhistory.org. Ottoman Empire. I don't know if that's a Wikipedia-like website, but at least you can critique the information, and that's what it's about when you're giving a source. The Ottoman Sultanate, yeah. So it was a sultan. 1299 to 1922. That's a long time. That is 700 years, I think. No? Maybe. Math might be off. As an empire. As a caliphate only. Referred to as the Ottoman Empire, written in Turkish. Osman Devleti was a Turkish imperial state that was conceived by and named after Osman, an Anatolian chieftain. At its peak in the 16th and 17th centuries, the empire controlled vast stretches, including Anatolia, southwestern Europe, mainland Greece, the Balkans, parts of northern Iraq, Azerbaijan, Syria, Palestine, parts of Arabian Peninsula, Egypt, and parts of North Africa Strip. In addition to the major Mediterranean islands of Rhodes, Cyprus, and Crete, renowned the strongest military superpower of its time. The empire stagnated and faced prolonged decline from the late 16th century CE onward until it was replaced by a modern Republic of Turkey after the First World War. Let's see if we can find the fall part here. So the Ottoman Empire was Turkish, basically. A Turkish superpower that absorbed others. After the fall of Constantinople, which became the new Ottoman capital, Mehmed launched several military campaigns in both the east and west. Serbia, Greece, and Bosnia fell under the Sultan's sway. And in the east, Mehmed took Trebizond. Domination, Black Sea. The Ottomans turned eastward. This is just war times. It was a military power, yeah, but it wasn't a defensive like NATO. So it was an aggressive military power. So they probably have a similar structure to the Romans. The Romans were also heavily a military power that expanded over other parts of land. Okay, let's see. The United Nations did what they would do, says Kargot. Tuke says, read what I said again. Tuke says, yeah, it was true. There were separate areas with separate cultures and languages, and they had local government. They had authoritarian leadership, but that doesn't mean if you remove them suddenly it's anarchy. It's still local government and they can govern themselves just fine. Before they collapsed, they were already divided and already fighting against the Turks who governed the empire. They were already governing themselves, but the Ottomans were just officially still in power. Well, to the World's League, the Ottoman Empire had aggressively gone into Europe, or parts that Europe considered to be European. So it might have been a historical reaction to the fall of the Ottoman Empire, because they have been dealing with the Ottoman Empire for over hundreds of years, you know. So when the military power dispersed, then you had a move basically, and the British got governing power somehow through the World's League. And that was before the UN, United Nations. So that's what happened. What I'm trying to understand is what are you disliked what happened in the past. And then you started a war. And then you blame all the deaths on you attacked someone and they were able to defend themselves. And now you want the rest of the world to think that you're a victim. I'm sorry, I don't follow your logic. Let's see. Tukur says, the League of Nations were a bunch of colonial Europeans that were okay with colonizing Africa and Asia. Of course they give Palestine to white Jews. So why did you accept the Ottoman Empire then? The Ottoman Empire did it to you as well. The whole Palestinian region, when you read about it, it's just a bunch of people swarming in and killing the inhabitants to take it over. The Jews had to flee because they were getting murdered by other peoples moving in. The Jews didn't murder anyone until you attacked them. And it's not murder because it's war. Then it becomes like, yeah, it's a conflict, ongoing conflict. No one's the good guy. And you started that. Or Hamas did. Okay, Kargot says, the Ottoman Empire engaged in systematic indoctrination of children. Most notably through the Devshirme system, where Christian boys from the Balkans were taken, converted to Islam. This is nice. No, it's monstrous, says Kargot. Tukur says, I'm trying to tell you, but you keep talking way too long. Kargot says, Israel has never lost a war. That is not true. Why did they get murdered in the north of Israel and had to run to Europe? The only Jews that made it was the one in the south, and they got assimilated to the new order of things. Tukur says, the Ottoman Empire didn't do that. They didn't force anyone to speak Turkish. There were no Turkish settlers that replaced Palestinians and wanted to expel them. The Jews literally came in and used flamethrowers on families to take their houses. So the Jews came with flamethrowers. And just burned people. So, are you taking these flamethrower attacks to the United Nations International Court stuff? Because flamethrowers are not allowed in war. So I don't think the Jews were allowed to use them on you or your houses. Tukur says, the United Nations, in that time, would have just said, they are a superior race, deal with it. Now you're just making up stuff. And you're talking about past tense. You can only try to figure out what happened in the past. Where are you right now? You know, were you even alive back then? It's just hearsay for you, man. The conflict that we have today, the weaponized conflict between the Hamas leaders that made Palestine attack Israel, Palestinian people, more like. They started this. See, like to the rest of the world, this is just like a civil war between like two groups of people that has distinguished themselves from each other by race or religion. Could you have found a peaceful way instead of attacking them with weapons? Kargot says the State of Israel was established on May 14, 1948. That have not lost a war. That's this state. Yes. Tuke. Did you know that the year before October 7th was the most deadly year for Palestinians since the Nakba? You started the war. The Palestinians started the war. You're not the victim. You started a war and you're getting your ass kicked. You can't start a war and then be, oh my god, they're better at war than us. We're the victim now. Take it to the negotiation table and end the fucking thing. If you're getting your ass kicked, I mean, that's on you. I don't understand how you started a war on things in the past not being justified. You're not finding any peaceful ground at all. It's just boiling up to conflict. Like, we are having that problem a little bit with the immigration side here in Sweden as well, but we're at least trying to be civil about it, trying to be somewhat peace-oriented. But when you have a side that is so aggressive as the Hamas were, for example, they don't give you an option. Did the Palestinians give Israel a peaceful option? Are they just gonna let you attack them and murder them? You know? I'm sorry. I'm not here to watch your videos on YouTube. I'm here to have a conversation. I can't have a conversation with a video. Video is a one-sided information. When you have one-way communication and two-way communication. A two-way communication is what we have right now. I am speaking and you are speaking back to me. That's a two-sided communication. I can speak with you and you can have a reaction and speak back to me. A video is information for me only. I cannot speak back. So your videos are just, it's information, yes. But I'm not gonna believe because I can't talk to the person who made the video. I can't critique it. I don't want your propaganda, is what I'm saying. I want to have a discussion. And through this discussion, the only thing that has happened is that you have not convinced me that Palestinians are the victims. I'm sorry. It's not the information from the website itself. You cannot critique it. I read information and you only shove it off like, it's not true, it's not true. We're victims. Nothing was orderly done and everything is unfair. I'm not dodging the truth. You're just trying to make me think what you believe. You're not victims. You attacked. You could have skipped attacking. I looked at the video of the Hamas leader. He was sad about his sons dying in when they were at conflict with prior conflicts. He was just out for revenge. My sons died when we fought you last time. They're just stuck in the conflict. You know, they got war on their minds. And he He blamed Israel for them having too many kids. In the video, he talked about his son. He talked about Palestinians having a 60% unemployment rate. It's the Palestinian people's own fault if they have a 60% unemployment rate, especially when the portion that is working is mostly working for Jews. So the Jews are creating prosperity for you, and then you attack them. How long are these videos? I mean, this conversation has gone over almost an hour. I don't have faith. I'm an atheist. Let's see here. Let's make a reactional part, maybe. We could do that. We could discuss the video. Let's see if I can. There we go. All right. Let's have a look-see.
טנטורה היה כפר עשיר, בתים יפים, יפים, אתה יודע, וגם השתוללו בטנטורה, זה היה משהו נורא. טנטורה היה כפר עשיר, בתים יפים, גרים כמו אירופאים, אתה יודע, וגם אנשים היו לבושות ויפה, וזה באמת היה כפר... אחד אנס שם איזה ילדה בת 16, משהו כזה. אתה מבין? אבל זה מכוער מאוד. היה לנו בחור אחד, הוא נפטר, הוא היה פרא אדם. הוא לקח פשוט מאוד ורצח אותם בתוך המכלאות. בתוך המכלאות, הם היו במכלאות. אתה יודע, חוטי ברזל כאלה, עגולים כאלה, אספו כל הגברים. הם יושבים שם, כולם, על הרצפה, ובא מישהו ולוקח תת מקלע ומתחיל זה, מחליף מחסנית. מה אתה חושב זה? אבל אנחנו לא היינו כאלה. הוא היה יוצא דופן, הבחור הזה, כן, מה שהוא עשה. והשתיקו את הדבר הזה, והיו חבר'ה שלקחו את הלוויורים ורדפו אחרי חבר'ה ושרפו אותם. זה היה משהו זוועתי, וזה אסור לספר, אני לא אדבר על זה, כי זה יכול להיות סקנדל שלם מהעניין הזה. אני לא רוצה לדבר על זה, וזהו.
3-4 חודשים הראשונים הייתי רוצח.
מה זה אומר?
אני לא לקחתי שבויים. בזמן קרב, אם מישהו ירים ידיים, משהו כזה, לא לקחתי שבויים. זה זעזע אותי עד כדי כך, לא יכלתי לעבור לסדר היום. אם היה עומדת כיתה של זה עם ידיים למעלה, אז באותו יום הייתי רואה אותי, הייתי קוצר את כולם, עד כדי כך.
כמה אתה חושב אנשים הרגת ככה?
לא ספרתי. אני לא יכול לדעת בחיי. היה לי מקלע עם 250 כדורים. ותראה, יריתי, נלחמתי כולם. אני לא יכול לספור.
Okay, so we have two people in this video. So this is either two witnesses to war crime. Yeah, well, you say that. Yeah, you are saying that. This is a video. And those two, I can't confirm they are what you say they are. Kargot, this can be proof. It doesn't mean that it is, but it can. So the thing is that they might, you know, when you have a fight, you know. You're aggressive and angry, and that I think that might be the case here, because you need to if they are criminals at war, you know, then they are responsible for their actions, Like if you have soldiers in war, they are responsible for what they do in that war or in the conflict. So what I'm saying is that this video, if you spread this to Palestinians and they get angry and attack Israel, then you are making those crimes. Because you have civilians and then you have fighting people. So if you want to become what you hate, because that is what war is. If you're gonna attack them back and be as ruthless and evil as they were, we're talking about revenge. You know, and this video might be to provoke. Let's say, for example, something that was common when I was young was that there were men out not to have fun. They drank alcohol and went out in public to start a fight. And sometimes they had friends that were small, and they would send in the small friend, and he would mouth off. So people would be angry because this guy is picking a fight with me. And they would have the confidence to beat them up. So if the fight started, then the friends jump out of the bushes. Now you won't win the fight because you were baited into fighting. So what I'm saying is that these two people, even if they are Israel soldiers, they can lie about what happened because they were paid to lie. In North Korea, there are white people in North Korea that work, and their job is to make North Korean propaganda that the people watches. So they will see a white person saying things and they will believe that, you know. So if you look at a movie from Hollywood, for example, there's no guarantees. It's a movie. Do you understand? What if it's scripted? They made a false story to make you angry. Or maybe these two people hate Israel for some reason. They were in the military. They did bad things. They got kicked out. Maybe they lost special treatment. They lost their pension, or they didn't get paid enough, or they themselves have a problem with Israel because they are some kind of criminal. So they do this video because they want to hurt Israel for a personal reason. They have a reason to work with the other side. You understand? A video does not trump. They are witnesses, or they are creating propaganda, and we can't tell the difference. That is either because you need to have. So they're either witnesses to a historical event of atrocities, or they are lying on video. Witnesses can lie. That's why I think the video is false. You don't sit on a video and tell those kinds of story and be laughing. That's the problem. It's not pro-Israel. It's it kinda is, but the problem with your logic is that you're not accepting the fact that the Israeli state managed to form itself on the absence of you having one. Your self-government could not protect Palestine. Your laws allowed them to buy land and to exist as a organization under the current power rule. The Ottoman Empire disappeared and there was a temporary force called Britain. So you're not accepting the historical events that has happened in your homeland. I am sorry that you don't accept that. But you, as a organization, Hamas, and whatever political situation you had, you starting a war with Israel is your own fault. Hamas started the war. I've seen the Hamas leader self-explaining why he started the war with Israel. And the only reason I understood it was that he realized they had too much unemployed people. So he just saw a bunch of cannon fodder and threw them. You had 60% unemployment. You can't even take care of yourselves. I am done with this. Back to the game. You can come back and have a conversation with me at a later date when you have thought about things.